go back to the link that we sent you and you'll be able to watch the recording as well. We will share the slides on our social channels as well if you like them. There's lots of links and stuff we'll talk about. You'll be able to get them from there. Also, we'll drop them into the chat here. So our session today will be about 40 minutes of us talking and taking you through the content, and then hopefully we'll have some Q&As. So it's your chance to ask us anything you like about the course. So I'll give you a brief introduction and introduce the other team members. We'll talk about specialisms. We'll talk about careers. So what can you look for after doing the course, and particularly with the specialism focus. A Q&A, and then a what's next. We have a whole bunch of sessions for you over the summer that we want to tell you about. So as I said, we'd really like it to be an interactive session, so please ask questions at any time. We have two groups for you to join. We have a WeChat group. You can scan the QR code here or connect with my colleague Liping Chung. She'll drop her WeChat username in the announcement section, and you can join there. And there's our WhatsApp group as well. You can join WhatsApp, and they're being monitored by staff members now. And for the next all summer, we'll be keeping an eye on them and answering any questions, or just pop by and say hello. That's entirely up to you. But yeah, ask us lots of questions. If you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. Teams has a Q&A session as well. So on the right hand side, you should see an option like this, and you'll be able to write your own questions, and we'll reply back to them via the chat, or we will answer them at the end. So please make use of these features. So meet the team on today's call. We have John Waller. You might have met John already. John is in charge of admissions. John will also be appearing on mainly the technical modules. You might see him throughout the year on the data science and information systems modules. We have Professor Margaret Lowe. Professor Lowe is speciality in collaboration and programming, and she's been here since the very start of the e-business course when it was developed way back in the early 2000s, I think. Margaret's speciality around programming, and she does a lot of this outreach with local schools and trying to get e-business into local schools and colleges. We have myself, my name's Mark Bonnet. My speciality is around e-commerce and the technical side of that, leading into the data science specialisms. I've been working with e-business students for many years now, supporting the degree, and been running and still do run my own business. We have James Julian Pennington. James is a key member of the team. You'll find him on digital marketing. You'll find him on the digital consultancy specialisms. And James runs his own business. James has lots and lots of clients, and he brings this experience into the business course, and that's a very valuable thing we like to offer with our modules, that real world experience and real clients that you can sort of work with. Gareth Edwards. You'll find Gareth on digital marketing stream and even on the e-commerce and consultancy streams. Gareth has lots of digital marketing experience in large and small companies, even running his own business as well. So you'll find Gareth particularly interested in digital marketing, social media, and his content marketing. Emily Davis. Emily is a former e-business student. She graduated a couple of years ago. Emily has a background in psychology, so that makes it really good for e-commerce, digital marketing, looking at conversions, looking at consumer behaviour. Lots of really interesting research going on with that, and Emily brings that experience to those specialisms. Armagan Khan. Armagan, again, was a e-business student just this time last year. He graduated top of the class. Armagan's experience comes from retail, and so that makes him perfect for working from the e-commerce, digital marketing, and even consultancy specialisms. Armagan's experience comes from working in large retail environments. Liping Chung. Lipping joined us last year as well. She was another e-business graduate, so you can see what we're doing there. Lipping brings...
It's up into a corner though, Mark, by saying that Armagon was top of the class, haven't you? Lipping was the same year.
Lipping was joint top of the class, as Lipping was the same year. Thank you, Michael. Lipping has got lots of experience in analytics, working for big companies in China, and she brings the data science expertise to the data science stream. We have Dr. Shah, another e-business graduate, but from mid-2000s, I think. Shah is our consultancy expert, having many years experience working with the likes of IBM, working with big implementations with lots of experience around ERP and BPR. We have Martin Rourke as well with us today. Martin is a sort of extended member of the team. Martin isn't a full-time staff member. He runs his own business, IT business, and he comes in and delivers specialist lectures around databases, around computer programming, and you'll find him a lot supporting the data science stream. And the same with Jordan. Jordan is another extended team member. Jordan runs his own business, but he's a computer scientist, and he brings in, again, the programming expertise, particularly on e-commerce, where he'll help you build your own e-commerce website, and on the data science stream there. And finally, last but not least, Dr. Michael Mortensen, Mr. Big Data. So Michael not only deals with the data science specialism, the whole course, Michael does lots of research and publishing of papers, particularly in the data science area, and works with big companies, helping them to understand data science and big data better. Also on the call, we have two current students. Javier, data science student. Feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn and ask any questions, just direct them to him in the chat. And Vivi, a digital marketing student, is here as well to answer any questions particularly about student experience, perhaps what you can expect. So feel free to connect with them or directly ask them questions in the chat here today. We're building a whole bunch of communities as well. We have our LinkedIn group here where you're more than welcome to join. So we have business students, current students and alumni going back at least 10 years. You can connect with. We have students in this group who work for the likes of Google, for Amazon and the big consultancy companies, as well as lots of smaller companies all around the world. So there's a great opportunity to see where e-business students sort of gone on to, and to make that connection. We have a Twitter account, so if you're interested in the latest affairs, current, cutting edge news stories around e-business, check out our Twitter feed. For more behind the scenes look, as you can tell from the picture here, we've got an Instagram account, so follow us on there, and again, connect with us on there. We can take questions and we share interesting content. And finally, we have a brand new Facebook account our colleague Gareth set up not so long ago. And again, this is for current potential new students and alumni. So you can join, connect and make friends with people during the course next year or past students and find out what they've done. So at this point, I'm going to pass you over to Michael Mortensen, and he's going to take you through more in-depth around the specialisms and what you can expect. If you're not sure what you're particularly interested in, here's your opportunity to find out more. Over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Mark. Is everything sharing correctly?
Yeah, that is perfect.
Okay, excellent. Just as a disclaimer, this is, although we use Teams in classes, we've had a haircut, John, lovely. Although we use Teams in classes, this is not the usual way we use Teams. This is Teams Live, so it's slightly different. It's not the usual method, so we're trying this for the first time, essentially. I know some of you may have attended the class that was run via Blackboard a couple of weeks ago. We weren't particularly impressed with that technology, but I would appreciate if there's any feedback about this particular platform and what works and what doesn't work. So the Q&As, the presentation, whatever it is, do let us know. We're fairly comfortable in what we're doing with our in-class activities, but some of these ones we'll do over the summer. We're trying out new technologies, so any feedback you have would be a good thing. But anyway, as Mark says, yeah, my role in today's talk is just to really go through the specialisms, try to give you a bit of a jump on which one is right for you. There are various web resources on the WMG webpage, I know because I wrote them. So yeah, do refer to those to help with your decision making. You also can reach out to any of us, and as Mark said, it's a good pool of resources in terms of previous students and current students. I'm sure you'll find there's a lot of people willing to help you make that decision. But this will give you a quick 10,000 feet view. But I wanted to start by actually just talking about the motivation as to why we started the specialisms in the first place. This is a relatively new thing that we've been doing only over the last few years, but I think there is good reason to do so. Now this slide here, this image refers to the first sort of breakthrough moment of e-business as a concept. So this was from a 4-page Wall Street Journal advertorial that IBM ran. IBM had done a bunch of research into this new use of internet technology to change business process, and they came up with this idea of e-business as a concept, and they even trademarked this little E-shaped thing which never really took off. No one seems to use. I've never seen that before I did this research, but that was their attempt to stamp IBM's flag on it. And so really I wanted to just reflect back a little bit on e-business and how e-business has changed from 1997 to 2020, because I think in doing so we can understand a bit more why specialisms exist and why they are necessary today. So way back in 1997, this was all relatively new tech. This was a new phenomena, essentially. And obviously we've all seen just how much digital and e has grown in that period of time. So this is a couple of slides that look at, a couple of graphs rather, that look at the size of the digital economy. And there are two ways you could define what is the digital economy. On the left-hand side, this is what they call a narrow definition. So this is just companies that are purely digital. So mostly this will be software companies where everything they do is online and digital, essentially. If we look at it from that perspective, we see it still represents quite a large percentage of these nations' GDP. So in the UK, where we are, is something like 7 or 8% of our overall GDP. However, I urge you to perhaps look more at the broad definition. So this is looking at industries which are a huge part of them is digital. They're not 100% digital necessarily, but they fully rely on digital in order to function the way they do. And when you look at it that way, nearly 60% of the US economy is digitalized, over 50% of the UK. China is shown on here as a bit lower, but the reason these are in red, this comes from an article that is arguing that in a post-COVID-19 world, China will probably become much higher percentage digital, essentially. And I suspect that's a trend many of the audiences who come from China would agree with. So it's become very big business, quite obviously. That's also changed the way organizations need to think about where e-business sits. So it used to be, when I first started in this space in the early 2000s, it used to be that digital was at the sideline, the slide says. This was a separate sort of department that worked with all of your other departments. And typically, I can say this because I was one of them, it was a bunch of nerdy men working in a basement type office, doing stuff with computers, trying to persuade other parts of the business to listen to them. In today's economy, businesses need to be digital at their core. Digital needs to be in every single department. Your HR department needs to be digitalized. Your marketing function definitely needs to be digitalized. Supply chains are digitalized. In my space, your insights and analytics teams, data science is really the digitalization of analytics, essentially, right? All of these departments and a business as a whole needs to have digital at the center, not a separate team down in the cellar of a few people mucking around with computers. Digital is part of everything that today's businesses do. And that's changed the way that e-business needs to be taught, I would argue. And that's why we made the specialisms. So when I did the course back in 2011, and I think Shah was 2009, there was just one flavour of e-business. We all did the same course, essentially. And probably that was appropriate for that sort of time. We were still in this kind of mode of thinking where digital was something that was done at the side as a unique piece of work. So actually a good example of this is if you think about how websites were built in the 2000s and the job roles involved in that versus today. In the 2000s, in the time period where I was doing this course, you would have a role that was webmaster. And a webmaster basically did everything. They built the server, they coded the website, they did the digital marketing, they did all of those things. No organizations, no sizable organizations today employ a webmaster. They have operations people to look after servers. They have front-end and back-end developers. They have digital marketing specialists. They have e-commerce specialists. People are much more specialized in that role. So whereas the degree of the 2000s, which would prepare someone to do all of these e-business things, was fine for its time, I do not believe it to be fine for today's economy. In today's economy, I think you need general digital skills, but also something else, some other specialism inside that. And it's in that intersection that you will find success in your job careers. And I think Armagon's got some really good case studies to show exactly that working in the real world for our students. Or another way of making the same argument, the prior degree, the degree that I did and the degree that ran in the 2000s and 2010s was a generalist type degree. It was to create people who knew a little bit about a lot of different things. We're trying to go now more towards some degree of specialism, that you will come out of this degree with an expertise, not an understanding of what e-business and digital is as a whole, but also a specialization in one of the main areas of work. Now, I would point out this is often presented, and this image presents it as a dichotomy, that you can either be a generalist or a specialist, and in reality that's not true. Everyone is to some degree a generalist and to some degree a specialist. No one is 100% in one end or the other. So really what I'm saying is we're moving a bit from being more generalist to being more specialist, essentially. So that takes us to where we are today, which is of these four specialisms, which I'm sure you are already aware about. We have e-commerce and digital marketing, and these two are more designed to be retail focused, customer focused, more around the selling and the marketing end of e-business. The difference between the two is that e-commerce deliberately takes a more technical focus. So you'll be getting more hands-on with the IT elements. You'll be learning more in depth about some of the systems that are used. And also most of you will be getting an introduction to programming. And certainly you'll be spending some time learning how to put together a website. If you go the digital marketing route, it's more towards that higher level strategy. It's more towards the business planning, but also you're going to get a lot of hands-on experience working with all of these different digital marketing channels. From a lot of them have already been mentioned, all the social media sites, things like search engines, things like programmatic advertising, which is the one session I do, and all of these different tools that are out there today. On the bottom half of the grid, we have a more project-focused flavour of e-business. So this is not about necessarily providing a marketing or selling service, but individual projects that allow business processes to become digitalised and optimised. So this bottom half is more about digital disruption. It's more about bringing change to organisations. Now, again, we have a technical side of that, which is my piece, digital and data science, where we're more about analysing data, writing code and building apps that will change the way something is done, that will make a thing run better. If you go more in the management direction, that takes us towards digital consultancy and entrepreneurship. Now, that might sound like two things squashed together, but it is my belief, or our belief, that these are in fact two sides of the same coin. If you are going in a consultancy mode, you are going into a business and thinking, how can digital technology, how can digital practices change that business? If you're planning on being a digital entrepreneur, i.e. starting your own business, it's about going into an industry and saying, how can digital technologies, how can digital practice change that industry? How can I disrupt that industry with a new business model? Okay, so that's my sort of high-level introduction as to why we've done the specialisms. I'm sure you found that a bit more boring, so I'll go into the stuff that you turned up for, which is what is actually the difference between these different specialisms. So I'll start by saying what they share. First of all, irrespective of specialism, all students will do, and hopefully in late October, the e-business fundamentals module. That's the first module we do for every single specialism. And there is good reason for that. This is in many ways the module that is the most generalist. So it covers a wide spectrum of almost all the main topics in e-business. We look at things like supply chain, we look at things like marketing. It's designed to give you that enough knowledge to understand the area such that you can make sensible choices on things like your dissertation project, and such that you can go into the later modules understanding the domain that we're working in. But alongside the generalist content, and a lot of this is based on student feedback and student demand, we also include now a lot of specialist content. So you'll be doing generalist content that all streams do, and you'll also be doing specialist content designed around your chosen stream. So we'll introduce in those the core specialism topics. That part of the module is designed to be almost all practice-based. So lots of activities, lots of hands-on stuff, lots of games and simulations designed to really get a feel and a tactile understanding of what your specialism is about. And the last bullet point just says that now all of the marks that you get are associated with the specialism. So you have 2 projects you'll do in class. We talk about a WMG IMA, which is in module assessment. So this is the stuff you're doing in class, and PMA, which is post module assessment. There are 2 projects you will do, one of which is building a web resource. The other will vary by specialism, but it's typically an in-depth analysis of something related to your specialism choice. And you have 2 projects which you gain marks for associated with that. And then your post-module work, which will be a business report, again, will be linked to your specialism. Now, there's 2 other modules that we essentially share, but with one difference. If you are on digital and data science or you are on e-commerce, you will do the 2 modules on the left-hand side, which are enterprise e-commerce systems and digital marketing systems and technology. If you are on the digital marketing specialism or consultancy and entrepreneurship, you will do digital marketing strategy and management, and then e-commerce. The only real difference here is the degree of focus. If you are on the left-hand side, the e-commerce type module is longer and more in-depth, and we cover more technical type topics than we do in the smaller 10-credit e-commerce version. If you want, and so you do more e-commerce and slightly less digital marketing. If you're on the other side, you do more digital marketing, and we go more into the strategic and management elements of that. And then you do a smaller e-commerce course. So you're going to get both of these things either way. The core topics are covered for all students. It's just about how much time you spend on them. This left-hand side is more for the technically focused students. This right-hand side is more for the management-focused students. That is the extent of the shared content, essentially. After that, we all have unique modules per specialism. So I'm just going to quickly go over those, and then I'll hand over to Armagan. So if you are going in the e-commerce direction, I would argue that e-commerce, the topics involved, the focus involved is summarized quite neatly with this Venn diagram. You will see quite soon that I'm obsessed with Venn diagrams. I think they're a really good way of explaining things. And I think this provides a good summary of what an e-commerce graduate should have. You should have some degree of business awareness, and you'll see there's modules focused on the business of delivering supply chain. You obviously need to understand the technology, so how websites are built, how websites are developed, website functionality, and the underlying systems that support them. And also you need a focus on UX, which is the common abbreviation for user experience. So you need to be thinking about how to optimize that digital experience for a customer, how you can take someone landing on your website for the first time and turn them into a regular customer. So our modules are built with that in mind. So for instance, one of the modules you'll do is e-customer relationship management. That focuses on building customer experience, building long-term relationships with customers, managing reputation and all of that kind of thing. We have ISM, which will focus on cloud, and it will focus on software development practices and things like architecture design for your information systems. And you will also do with me and Lipping big data analytics and visualization, and this will tell you how to take that data that is being produced by your e-commerce platform, analyze it, visualize it, and how we can optimize and make better decisions having done so. So big data analytics and visualization is the most introductory, if you like, of the data science modules that we run. There is no prerequisite experience. We do a bit of programming in there, and we do a bit of maths in there, if you like, but you don't need to have any background in that space to be able to do this module. What it's more focused on is understanding how analytics and data science works as a process, but also how we can practically put these things to use. Your penultimate module is supply chain integration. So obviously, if we're running a product-orientated e-commerce site, you need to know what best practice is in managing that supply chain, how you can get that product to the customer's door, how you can work with different suppliers, and how to make that whole network tick, essentially. And then lastly, there is some degree of choice. We strongly recommend, and in fact the default choice will be, if you are on the e-commerce specialism, to do computer programming, run by Martin Rourke, who Mark introduced. So this is designed to be a beginner's introduction to programming, but over the course of that module, you will learn how to program in Python, and you will learn how to design and put together an app. So the specific work you are doing is building a web application in that module using existing programming frameworks. And the idea is to take you from zero knowledge of programming into being able to actually put a basic app together and publish it on the web. Now, if you already have a programming background, then this is not a good module for you. And or if there are really good reasons, if you absolutely hate doing programming and really can't stand the sight of it, we can have the conversation and we can switch that module for a module called Information Communication Technology with James, which focuses less on programming and development, but more on the technology used across an office and across an organization. Okay, moving swiftly on, for digital consultancy and entrepreneurship. This is the specialism that has too long a title, so I have to drop something and extend the text box every time I make a slide. So digital consultancy and entrepreneurship. This is about the people who want to use digital technology to make change. I think maybe if you speak to your friends and peers and say, I'm going to go and study e-business, they'll think you are going to learn how to be a Silicon Valley startup and some of these things that we see. There's a question in the chat on this. I will come back to the questions associated later on, if that's okay, just in the interest of flow. Yeah, people might think you're going to become one of these Silicon Valley type startups. If that is what you're interested in, this is the specialism for you. This is the specialism about finding new exciting technologies and breaking the way that businesses or industries work. You will cover in that the first module you'll do after e-business fundamentals is emerging digital technologies with me and Armagan. And in that one, we look at some of those hype technologies you'd have heard around: 5G, Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, artificial intelligence. We'll introduce you to all these techs that are getting the hype, but also we'll introduce you to ways of thinking about emerging digital technologies, ways to understand how these technologies bring about change and how they can be combined together to build something bigger than the sum of their parts. In semester 2, you'll be doing digital disruption and digital entrepreneurship. So this is the module that really teaches you about starting a digital business and teaches you about building a business model, securing funding, all of that kind of thing. And you'll also do digital consultancy. So that's the other half. that will teach you how to run consultancy projects, how to understand client requirements, how to efficiently and optimally manage them as projects, and how to deliver successful results. Alongside that, you'll have 2 core business management type modules, one in finance, so understanding how digital businesses can and should be financed and the core metrics involved, and again, supply chain integration, which we talked about previously. Supply chain is a huge topic in consultancy, and for a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, a lot of them will have a product focus, and therefore, again, supply chain becomes a key consideration. Moving on to digital marketing. So this is really where we intersect with all of those different platforms, channels, tools that make up the web today, that really dominate our lived experience in today's lives. We're always on different websites. We're always using social media. Even on my holiday, I'm officially on holiday this week. I'm breaking my holiday to come and speak to you. I'm still getting hundreds and hundreds of emails. That is the modern world we live in. Digital marketing is about using these tools to influence, promote, and develop a company and a brand. So the first module you'll do if you're doing this specialism is one called the digital workplace. In a sense, this is not the most marketing of the modules you do, but we're putting it first, particularly because of the situation we're in today. So in this module, you'll learn all about digital communication tools, things like Microsoft Teams, things like WeChat, things like Zoom, and how the workplace is changing. If you want to be a digital marketer, you're going to have to work with the whole business. So we need to understand how all of that business can communicate and what the modern office will look like. Because of the way the world is right now and the reliance on these tools in any walk of life, we felt this was a good module to start with to give you that expertise earlier in the year. You'll do e-customer relationship management, which I touched upon earlier, and you'll also do big data analytics and visualization, which again I've already discussed. So do not worry, this doesn't mean you need a programming background. As I said earlier, you don't need to have a first degree in statistics, but this is to give you a feel of how, as a digital marketer, you can use data to optimize what you're doing and bring about change. In a similar vein, we cover ISM, information systems, we previously talked about, thinking about how that marketing technology fits into the wider organizational structure and how we use things like cloud to optimize our digital marketing campaigns. And you'll also do digital entrepreneurship and disruption, how you can influence and build business models or launch new sub-brands and sub-products. Finally, sorry, I know I'm running slowly, so I'll speed up a bit. Digital and data science, which is my specialism. So in digital and data science, we typically talk about these 3 core sets of skills that you have. This is Drew Conway's representation. He talks about hacking skills. So this relates a bit to the question that was posed I saw earlier. If you want to be a data scientist, that doesn't mean you are necessarily a full-blown software engineer and that you have that level of programming. Typically, a data scientist is not creating bug-free, production-ready code, but they should have enough programming in order to be able to collect some data, analyze that data, and build some code that will generate results. You do not need to come into this specialism with a background in programming. We assume no background, and we will teach you from the ground up how to do programming. However, you should, if you want to do this specialism, you should be interested in learning programming, right? It's an effort you'll have to make to do so. It's built into the module, so it's not something you have to do alongside the course, but it is something you have to embrace, essentially. You will need some general maths and statistics. Again, a lot of that will be taught on the course, but we would ask that students have the equivalent of an undergraduate degree module in statistics, not the whole degree, but if you've done one module in your undergraduate degree in business statistics or something like that, that's the sort of level of maths you should have. I will give more information in due course about, I've got some example questions that you can take, and if you answer them all correctly, then you're fine. If you are 50%, then I would suggest you some resources that you can use if you want to take the specialism. And lastly is this substantive expertise, which means understanding the domain. Now, the flavour of data science we push is the digital and data science one. So this means understanding e-business, and that's what you'll get from your other modules. I'll skip over that point. So what we're covering in this one, we also do big data analytics and visualization, but here it is just a starter, really. It's the first module to start to understand this space, and we'll go more in depth later on, but also it gives you an overview of how these projects should be run. Oops. We then have computational statistics with Python. So inbuilt into this module is some learning up front to build your programming with Python, to take you from knowing no coding to knowing enough coding to do some data science work. But we'll also introduce you to some of the statistics of big data and the statistics of data science and AI. That leads into, that's the prerequisite for data science and machine learning, which follows. And in this module, you'll be using those Python skills to actually build production-ready prediction models, build AI and deep learning models, and run a whole data science project in a hands-on fashion. We also cover cloud-native computing, which is taking advantage of cloud to build faster, to use things like DevOps and Agile, and to work in a way that allows us to create data science apps and AI apps in an efficient and speedy and reliable way. And then finally, we have digital consultancy, which we talked about earlier. This module teaches you how to work with clients, understanding the requirements of your solution, and to build models that reflect the real world. So last slide for me, Armagan, you're almost ready, is how should you decide? It's a hard one. I can't say for you which one is the right one for you. We are going to try and give you as many resources. I know some of you will already know, I definitely want to do this specialism, but I suspect there's more of you who are looking at 2 of these, maybe even 3 of these, and thinking they could be right for me. We are going to run these sessions next week, which Mark will tell you about, to give you a flavour of the specialism. So you can come and attend as many of those as you like and get a feel, a taster session of what they may look like. And also, okay, if I've been kicked off. And also, I just had to do my pro level transition. What I would encourage you to do is not necessarily think about what skills you have right now, but to think about what skills, what career you want to have. Where do you want to go next? You're here to learn something new, right? So it's not really what you already know. It's where you want to be in next year, the year after, and in 5-10 years time. That's my pro level transition into Armagan.
Thank you, Michael. Hey guys, so I'm going to talk to you very quickly about the career side of things and what you should expect after completing your MSc e-business management here. I like to think of our 4 specialisms as the Fantastic Four, because each one of them brings something very, very specific. So we have e-commerce, which is, which is on fire across the globe, especially after the post-COVID-19 world. It's going to be a lot of e-commerce, so it's going to blow up as a field. Digital consultancy is something that we brought in last year, and it is specifically focused at some of the top companies, consulting work that goes global, that is really, really popular. And this stream kind of prepares you in the optimal way to be in that particular role, to have to go through those processes that help you understand what the job requires. Digital marketing, taking your business to the people, that glamour, everything that you require to, after setting up your business, taking it to people and selling the idea. So that's where you get those capabilities. And finally, digital and data science, which is obviously no operation can operate without a brain. So all of these complement each other really, really well. I want to mention this point here. E-business management is the only course out there that has such a wide breadth of different flavors that you can interact with during your experience in the e-business management course. You look at any other course out there, doesn't matter what their ranking is, they're very specific. They could be either e-commerce or they could be digital marketing, but the breadth that this course offers is massive. So when we talk about e-commerce, we look at things like, e-commerce platform development. What is the backend technology? Using big data for, your e-commerce purposes, making supply chain models for your e-commerce, and consumer and marketing relationships. So Michael has touched extensively upon that. I won't touch more on that. But what are the key sort of careers that you guys can then think about going in? So you have positions like e-commerce coordinators, e-commerce consultants, analysts, fulfillment analysis assistants, project and program managers, digital account managers, product managers, and trading assistants. Now, bear in mind, All of these positions are entry-level positions, so things that you would be looking at right after you graduate, okay? And all of these positions are actually from our alumni who've actually gone in different companies and they've secured employment in these areas. What's more important is that I want to share some stories of our alumni with you who've studied here in the previous years, and their experience on the course has sort of led them into, into securing an employment in one of these particular areas. So this is Fidelia Gunawan's story. She was an international student from Indonesia. She now works at a really reputable company in the UK, which is a THG group. And so when I was interacting with her to try to find out, what works and what doesn't work, the one thing that she, she really came up with was that the breadth of areas that you touch in the e-commerce, in the e-commerce specialism, allows you to not only understand that particular area, but also bits and bobs of the other areas that are associated in the e-commerce domain. So when she was applying for jobs, she wasn't restricted. She had a lot of different areas that she could think of, but being on the e-commerce specialism, she did develop those expertise in that e-commerce area. So, designing their website, working with digital marketing teams. So that kind of helped her understand her niche. So when she went out and she applied for multiple different jobs, but then she could narrow it down to something that she was really interested in. And then she eventually found that position. The LinkedIn of Fidelia and everybody else that I'm going to talk about is in the chat. So if you guys want to, feel free to connect with these guys on LinkedIn and ask as many questions. And the point that to emphasize here is that that this particular stream allows you a very, very practical amount of knowledge. The second story that I want to share with you is Ozge, who works with the Ministry of Trade in Turkey. She was also an international student from Turkey, and she, right after completing her course at eBM, not only did she go back to the Ministry of Turkey to start working in a particular job, she also used all her knowledge that she gained on the e-business management stream, working in this e-commerce specialism, to start her own business. She set up her mom's business. She set up the website. She set up all the links. She did the basic digital marketing stuff. And when I was having a conversation with her, she said to me that all she did in that entire setup was use whatever she gained on the particular course. Now, the important point to emphasize here is that the course takes you through a multitude of different things. It is then your capability to sort of find your niche and then focus. And the e-business management team overall is very, very helpful. Once you come here and you interact with us, you'll realize that this is the most interactive course team, and we're always open for people to come and interact with us. So we engage. And so if there's anything that you actually identify as something as your niche, we would be able to not only help you, but to help you understand how you could use that better for your advantage. Okay. Similarly, consultancy and entrepreneurship, we talk about digital business models, business idea generation, startups, modern tech and its application in startups, and setups on different platforms, finances, supply chain, and marketing. This specialism is really good for the people who eventually want to set up their own business. Who eventually want to. So the ideal track that you take when you take the specialism is that you start off by working as a consultant, working with different businesses across the globe, understanding different issues, trying to identify solutions, and then take all of that learning into an actual business environment where you set up your own thing. Now, when you come to Warwick, not only do you have the opportunity of interacting with things like the Warwick Enterprise, which gives you the platform to set up your own business if you have a really good idea, but that's the overall experience. This specialism helps you become that, gives you that ability to sort of analyze different business models and correlate with them and make your business idea come to life. So the common positions that people go into after doing this specialism are junior consultants, insight analysts, junior business analysts, technology consultants, and there's a wide host of graduate consultant programs in the top big firms like Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, all of those firms. This specialism, kind of like puts you right in the path of these type of graduate roles, which deal with departments like audit, operations, tax, insurance, and strategy, etc. Well, this is Jacqueline NG's story. She's now working. She's now working, at Accenture as a hybrid business and technology integrator. She was an international student from Singapore, and today she's been working at Accenture for almost a year now, and she's had a very good experience. her biggest, advice for you guys was that, this specialism helps you understand, what is understanding business problems, doing presentations, writing business reports, doing consultancy type work. And not only that, working at WMG gives you access to a lot of networking opportunities and a lot of additional opportunities and courses, different types of courses that you can absolutely take for free, which is all to your advantage. Jackie was one of the biggest examples of how you find your way into big organizations through networking, and she attributes that opportunity to the platform that was offered to her by WMG and the e-business management course. Secondly, there's Christian. Christian was an EU student from Bulgaria. He now works as a digital analytics development analyst at the Macmillan Cancer Support System in the UK. He took this course because he already had experience in the digital marketing field. So he now was trying to build more capabilities in the technical side of the digital business. But this is a very, very important example, because here's what I'm going to tell you. The e-business management course does not turn you into a techie geek. The idea of the whole course is that it bridges the gap between the technical and the commercial. So it gives you the ideal understanding of both the technical side, but with the key focus on the business side, because remember, it is a business degree. So we kind of create a hybrid between somebody who can understand the language of both technical and commercial. And that's the experience that Chris shares as well, because he took on this, specialism, and he wanted to develop more technical expertise, but with the focus on business. So when he went into his consultancy role, he was able to shift focus to the commercial aspects from the technical aspects very, very smoothly. And the whole situation panned out really well for him. So for whoever wants to have that, entrepreneurial mindset, or wants to understand, how to deal with business problems in the real world, this is the specialism for you. Finally, digital marketing, which is obviously a very, very popular one, and why not? I mean, that's by far, what everybody fantasizes about, really. And Gareth, I'm sure, is very happy to listen to that. So we do digital marketing campaign design. We do a lot of work around analytics for performance, do customer management, the system design thinking. So for example, what goes in the back end to develop those digital marketing systems, launching a digital enterprise, and then using data for different marketing purposes that you do on some courses that you take on the specialism. The key roles that people go into are digital marketing executives, marketing specialists, social media marketing specialists, account managers, marketing communication officers, and SEO and paid media specialists. Again, emphasizing, these are entry-level positions that you guys will be looking at, and these are positions that our graduates have gone and taken. Alice's story is right in front of you. She was an EU student from France. She is now a junior performance marketing officer at a fashion brand in the UK called Farfetch. I don't know if some of you know about it. When I talked to her, she mentioned that it was really a good specialism, because she got a flavor of different things, but she also got the idea of focusing on something specific. So in her year, there was a specific session ran about Google Analytics, and she got really interested in the analytical side of digital marketing. And that is something that she understood was her niche. She was really interested in it. So while she really was interested in all of the other stuff that she was doing, she focused on that. She went a mile extra on that. She developed her niche, and now she's working in a digital marketing analytics role. Okay, so that's where, the eBM specialisms kind of like, not only do they give you a wide breadth, but also if you want to focus on your specific niche, which again depends on what you like and what your preference is, it becomes really important that you find that idea and you have all the support in this particular stream to be able to, focus on that particular niche. And finally, Michael's brainchild. So, well, everything is Michael's brainchild pretty much, but this is definitely his baby. We look at things like, building data pipelines, data engineering with Python. Python is something that is done extensively throughout the year. We have cloud native computing practices, database solutions designed for digital enterprises, and visualization of data for business management. Now, all of these things are very, very important. Now, remember, when I said that this is not about making you a techie, a complete techie. All of these things are unbelievably important aspects of the technical side that you know. But what you do with it is you take it down to the business route. So we have people who've entered employment titles like data analysts, data scientists, data engineers, machine learning engineers, product owners, and analytics and data science, and business intelligence analysts. The last one is particularly important because that is becoming increasingly popular with our graduates who want to keep that business side of things, but they have such an extensive understanding of the technical aspects that they are very, very, very well able to go into these BI departments and find their niche again. This is the story of Mikhail Vovna. He was an international student from Russia, and now he works as a measurement and attribution product specialist at Google. In Poland, okay? And so he was really, he did not have a lot of programming background, but when he took this particular specialism, it was, according to him, it was a great opportunity for him to get some practical skill with these technical tools and using all those, because the digital and data science, all different modules all entail particular exercises that go into a lot of depth of how things work. So working with these actual tools really helps you understand what the concept is. And now he's working at Google, and he is mediating between the commercial side and internally consulting with the technical teams to design solutions that work not only with just business but also with a particular level of IT capability. Okay, and this is Shui Liu. She works at SAP Shanghai. She was an international student from China, and she also did the DDS specialism. And she was really, happy about the fact that she chose this specialism because it gave her. She already had some background with data science, and the program actually gave her direction of how to use that technical understanding or technical knowledge and use it in order to make a more business-oriented approach, or use those tools and techniques to understand how businesses actually are going to work. These are all stories right in front of you. They're LinkedIn profiles. You're more than please do connect with these people. Ask as many questions as you possibly want. But all of these different flavors give you an understanding. Remember, the top level understanding is that you are a resource that's a bridge between the technical and the commercial sides. And the course gives you every bit of capability or every bit of exposure to different technologies that you would need in order to be that particular, in order to be in a particular role like that. But the most important thing is that you, in master's level, nobody's going to actually grab you by the hand and tell you what to do. You have to identify something that really interests you, and you will have absolutely every bit of support that you would need to in order to kind of excel or find your niche in that particular area. That's me done. We would now move to the Q&A session.
Can I suggest just mute yourself on?
Sorry?
Mute.
Yes. Definitely.
Mute yourself. Okay, good man. He's got bad speakers. Can I suggest actually, Mark, that we move to the what's next, just considering the time, and then come back to the Q&A?
Yeah, we'll do that now. That sounds like a good plan. Okay, keep the questions coming in. We've answered some already on the live Q&A, but we'll expand upon them shortly. We've got some questions coming in from WeChat as well, which we'll talk through. So yeah, what's next? So if you've made a decision, we have a form for you to fill in. It might be a little bit too early. But when you get your ID number from the university, there's a form here. We'll drop the link in the chat, and also we'll share the slides as well after. So yeah, you can come onto this form and put in your full name, your details, and what specialism you'd like. We have a whole bunch of specialism sessions starting next week. Okay, so on the 14th of July, Tuesday, we have a digital and data science specialism. This is an hour just to go through more in-depth all around digital and data science about the the stream, about specialism, and sort of give Michael and Lipping will give their views on the latest and current trends. On the 15th, we have a digital consultancy session. On the 16th, digital marketing. And then on the 17th, next Friday, an e-commerce session. The times are yet to be confirmed. Okay, we're just going to see how today goes and see what suits everyone best. If you'd like to put in the chat what time suits you, we can make that adjustment. But they'll probably be about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon UK time next week. So please let us know what times suit you best. They'll all be recorded. We'll share all the slides so you can come and look at them at any time in the future. We also have a student experience session coming up. So what's it like to be an e-business student? And this will be run by our e-business graduates, and they'll take you through the student experience from doing the course to the dissertation to all the other extra things you can get involved in at the university level, the societies and things like that. And then in August, again to be confirmed, and the actual date and time, we're going to do a course structure session. Okay, so what is term 1 going to look like for you? Okay, and what each specialism? Okay, with things aren't set up exactly right yet, and we can, nearer the time, we can put forward our exact plans.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the world's got a lot of change at the moment, so we don't want to go too early on that. But we have got the plans in place.
And we're open to anything. If we're here to help. So if you want a particular session on a particular aspect of the course, let us know, and we can put that on, whether it's a more formal session like this or an informal chat with the tutors. We're happy to help and put those on. You just tell us what you want. You can drop it in the chat or contact us directly. And here are all our email account addresses. So again, if you want to particularly seek out and contact John or Gareth or Shah or Lipping, Emily, you can do that then, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have and make that connection. And of course, on all the social channels, we are active. And that's the end of the what's next bit. So we'll take some questions now. So eBusiness team, feel free to shout out.
Apart from Mum, got to stay on mute.
Yes, so we had a really good question sort of linked to that that session I just talked about on WeChat, Michael, whether you'd like to answer this one. Whether the course schedule of the first semester will be adjusted appropriately due to the online class.
Due to the online, you mean what? Sorry, I don't quite get the question.
So I think the question is what's the online classes going to be like? Is it going to be a blended approach? Is it going to be face to face?
So as I said earlier, in a sense, this is all a moving target. So we have a plan, but we also have backup plans for kind of everything as we're trying to take stock of what the global situation is. Unless something really positive happens, my expectation is that it's going to be hard for 100% of students to arrive here on time in October. Normally we'd say arrive in October. If you don't arrive in October, sorry, you have to come back next year, sort of thing. But that's not going to be appropriate for this year. We know there's going to be a lot of problems with visas and flights and all of that kind of thing, essentially. So best guess as of right now is that it's going to be primarily online for semester 1, just in the basis that that will allow everyone to access everything. So we're going to scale down slightly the amount that we cover in semester 1. We certainly are going to cover e-business fundamentals and possibly one other module or maybe 2 modules in part in semester 1, with the aim of being as close to normal as possible in January. Now, obviously, we're ready to react to whatever happens in the macro environment, if you like. But yeah, ultimately, the intention is semester 1 will be primarily online. Semester 2 will be as much face-to-face as is physically possible to manage. Hopefully, we have a vaccine or something like that, and we can have really return to absolutely normal life. If that's not the case and we have to maintain something like social distancing, it probably will be more blended, but we're already thinking about that. We want to try to make sure every module in semester 2 has a face-to-face component in there, though. It has a practical, hands-on component. However, that said, the experience from this year just finished, or the second half of this year, having to move everything online, and please don't take my word for it and speak to the previous students. I think they're all they can give you an honest answer on that. I'm comfortable and happy with what we were able to deliver in the online space, and I think that it shouldn't feel like significantly worse than a face-to-face experience. I think one of the key things that we're doing, and you'll hopefully see that next week, compared to something like the pure play distance learning online courses, even though it's online, it runs like a face-to-face module. We're trying to do things live. We're doing a lot of hands-on work. We're trying to make it feel as real and as a real experience rather than a bunch of recorded lectures. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, things are changing all the time, so we've got lots of backup plans in place.
Yeah, but that's in August. Later in the year, maybe August, maybe the end of probably August. We'll run a session that lays out the current plan in full detail, essentially.
Okay, digital marketing question. For Chinese students, if we choose digital marketing, will the content we learn be used in China job markets, e.g. Google Analytics? James has got a response, but is that a digital marketing? Anyone like to expand upon that from the business team? We do cover Google. Who's this? James, yeah?
Yeah, I'd be happy to pick that up.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, we go through the principles. The vast majority of tools globally, the underlying principles are the same, but we will put some reflection in on how SEO is done with Baidu. We'll talk about paid advertising and analytics tools that are available for all of the different markets. But obviously we will show tools that we are comfortable and have easy access to. But we will definitely cover how SEO works and how paid advertising works. And then that typically is the same in all of the platforms overseas. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's really good, thanks. If we want to work in marketing direction, is digital marketing the best choice?
Yes, probably.
I think so, yes. I'd like to know whether the teaching plan of the first semester has been adjusted. So yes, Michael's covered that. Yes, we've got a plan in place, which we'll talk to you. We'll put another session on in August that will go in more detail around what term 1 will look like. We have lots of backup plans, as to say, everything's changing a lot here. Where the course schedule of the first semester be adjusted appropriately, yes. How did students cooperate to finish assignments online this semester?
Does a student want to answer that question?
Yeah, Javier or Vivi, do you want to talk about your experience in the online class?
Yeah, so personally, the experience I had with online teaching was very good. I was surprised how quickly the teachers were able to respond to the changes, and yeah, I think mainly in general. And nowadays we have to consider being very spoiled with all those new technologies appearing, and all the time Teams is also something that's been improved, and they have some new innovations coming up. So I'm sure the new coming students will have a totally different experience on Teams as probably I had, but from my point of view, yeah, I had a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we did the e-commerce module online at the start of June, and it worked really well. The students worked really well in their groups. They all work remotely, building an e-commerce website, and the results were excellent. In fact, one of the e-commerce websites has been taken on by a real world client, and that's going to be used for their real website with some small changes. So yeah, it's not ideal, we know that, but it does replicate the classroom pretty well. But it relies on everyone to join in and take part as well.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is obviously, in a way, we're lucky because we're in business, right? And we are in the business of doing things online in the real world. So a lot of the work that you would do in an e-business career involves online tools, involves cloud, involves social media, involves websites. So we're much, if we were doing something like engineering or manufacturing, it's far harder to make that move. Fortunately for us, most of the things we want to create and understand are online resources already. So yeah, I think we're lucky in that regard.
Okay, did we have one? You said you'd answer later on, Michael, about being technical for the data science specialism.
Yeah, so I did touch on it briefly in the talk, but yeah, I mean, I think the key point is it's not necessarily what you come in with. It's more about thinking about what you want to focus on. Now, the reality of doing a digital and data science specialism, I'm sure Javier would confirm for you, is that it is going to be intentionally very hands-on. So it involves writing code. It involves using some of the latest technologies, and some of them are going to be more geeky, if you like. As Armageddon says, we are business focused and we're application focused. It's certainly not a theoretical course, and it doesn't have any prerequisites, but you have to be inclined and have a strong desire to learn programming, to learn the necessary maths involved in AI. If you have that interest, and if you have that drive, then it can be a good choice for you, irrespective of your background. My undergraduate degree, believe it or not, was a Bachelor of Arts in Film Studies. So one of the questions earlier was, can you convert to being a software engineer? A lot of my work now is building apps and building software products. So absolutely you can do it, but you have to have the drive and motivation to do so. If that's not really something you're interested in doing, probably one of the other specialisms would better suit.
Following on from that, Michael, or Lipping, what software and tools can I expect to learn in the big data analytics and visualization module as part of the digital marketing specialism?
Do you want to answer that, Lipping, or shall I? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that yeah? You do? Go on then, Lipping.
Go on, Lipping.
Any software or tool, you mean?
What software and tools can I expect to learn in the big data module?
Yeah, we have like a data visualization lab, which we will use Tableau, and also in the data mining lab, we will use R, right, Michael?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So now we might change the Python, but probably.
Yeah, so generally, yeah, as last year condition, we use R and Tableau for big data, but this year maybe we'll consider to use Python as well.
We also cover a lot of things around the data architecture of organizations, although we're not expecting you to build databases or write queries with databases in the module. We talk about those technologies and those choices from a managerial perspective. But yeah, I think as Lipping says, the main two we use in module, we'll use either R or Python for building some predictive models. And Lipping runs a session with Martin on visualization using Tableau, and Tableau is the industry standard tool in this space.
Okay, perhaps one for James. I want to do marketing related jobs, but I already study marketing for my bachelor's undergraduate, so I want to study something different for masters. I wonder if digital consultancy would also be helpful for marketing related jobs.
Definitely. We will look at consultancy in the digital area, and a lot of the work will be marketing related. I spend a lot of my time doing digital consultancy, but a lot of it is around helping companies grow their online presence and understanding the analytical side of that. So we will look at tools for the marketing module we do, running campaigns, optimizing campaigns, looking at the data that comes off the back of that. So that's one of the modules we do. And obviously the consultancy module is very aimed at interviewing companies and then coming up with a digital plan for them. So yeah, the consultancy one will be a good choice because it will give you a wider breadth of knowledge around where does digital fit, and then your marketing background will actually give you a good advantage when we start talking about digital marketing itself. So
Yeah,
hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, James. A couple of questions about deadline for specialism selection, Michael. Is there a particular date we have?
It's most likely going to be September. It's currently TBC. It's most likely going to be early September, end of August. So we will communicate that with you in due course. But the idea of these sessions this week and next week is to give you that information you'll need to make those decisions, essentially. So, and please use all those resources Mark was talking about to help you with your choice.
Okay, if I can arrive in campus this autumn, could I attend the course by face-to-face way or still combine online?
I'm a little bit reticent for having, what we want to avoid is a two-tier kind of system where students who have to attend online through no fault of their own feel that they get less opportunity than students would face-to-face. I'd strongly encourage you, if you can come and want to come, but try to do so. And if we get to a point where we have the vast majority of people on campus, then we would obviously try to reflect that in how we deliver, and we would do more face-to-face. But I'm nervous about students feeling that they are being unfairly treated because they have to be online. So I think probably at least the first module will be online, irrespective of whether you're on campus or not. But there will be lots of things to gain from being on campus. We just don't particularly want assessed things that carry marks to be done in a split way like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look out, we'll promote the session in August on what term one will look like, so keep an eye out for that and join. James is replying to a question, but perhaps Armagan might give his view. If I want to join a consulting industry such as McKinsey, what course do you recommend? Being a data analyst is okay?
In my opinion, I think that you're not restricted by your specialism when you're looking for consultancy jobs, because most of these big companies are looking for some specific skills that you can get in almost all of the specialisms. The difference between of the digital consultancy specialism is that from day one it starts to talk to you about what consultancy roles are going to look like. It goes into specific depth about that particular way. We have people like James and Shah who are in those courses. We're talking about business process re-engineering. They're talking about understanding business problems, dealing with how you have to work, and these both bring not just the perspective of the smaller businesses, but also the larger businesses. So, taking the consultancy specialism really sets you up in that direction from the get-go. But for these big companies, a lot of times when they open their graduate programs, they have a long list of assessment centers and interviews. And I think we try our best to sort of equip you with a lot of that particular knowledge or those tools across all the different specialisms, that it's not like you'll be out of the race if you take another specialism, but also just that it kind of sets your tone of that particular direction right from the get-go.
Yeah, thank you, Armagan. Shah's putting in something there as well. My career goals align with the digital marketing specialism, but I think the module on basic computer programming will be useful to me. Can I take this module instead of the digital workplace?
We do consider module switches on a case-by-case basis. In general, we don't encourage them because the modules are designed to work together. But if a student particularly wants to do a module, or particularly doesn't want to do a module, we are happy to have that conversation. As it relates to programming, another option is that we have resources around computer programming that you can do without doing the module per se. So Yes, by all means, though, if you really have a strong desire to learn computer programming and want to switch out a module of specialism, we're happy to have those conversations. But in general, as a general rule, we don't necessarily encourage that too much because we spend a lot of time thinking about what modules work together to create the right story for your next employer.
Yeah, it's not all about the modules as well. You've got access to all the staff, sort of a wealth of experience. So if you reach out to any of us, we'll happily help you on perhaps a one-to-one basis, give you some guidance or anything like that. It's up to you guys to come and approach us. So every year I help students build their own WordPress website completely outside of the e-commerce module, but we help them, we set the site up for them, and we guide them on building perhaps their own portfolio website or something like that. So yeah, you've got access to everyone on the team. You can just ask. We'd be more than happy to help.
Yeah, I think just to carry on that point from Mark, I mean, the modules represent the assessed part of your learning over the year, but they're not the whole of your learning over the year. There's a lot of other opportunities that come along. There's a lot of other things you can involve yourself with and sessions you can attend and all of that kind of thing. And also, when it comes to your project, you have a lot of choice. So it could be that you choose to do a digital marketing project that has a programming element, and that was, we have students every year do that, and you can learn these things in lots of different ways. Is the message. But yeah, certainly, if you really want to if you're absolutely heart set on doing the computer programming module, I'm sure we could arrange for that to be the case.
Yeah, one could be about thesis selection. Do you want to expand upon that, Michael?
Yeah, I did answer in chat, but yeah, there isn't as such an absolute deadline to know exactly what you are doing, and we expect a project to evolve over the year. You do need to arrange a supervisor in semester one, and the way that's going to work really is that you take a topic that is aligned to that supervisor's knowledge. Essentially, a supervisor won't want to supervise a project they know nothing about because they're not going to be very helpful to you. So yes, you kind of need to, in semester one, have an idea of what you want to do. And the final point I made is the students who do best generally are the ones who can start their project as early as possible. It's meant to be a full year piece of work essentially, and the earlier you can start, the less work you leave for yourself at the end, essentially.
Might be helpful to take Xavier's perspective on that as well. He's actually going through the process of doing the dissertation. Xavier, do you want to?
Yeah, so maybe you will receive that same information at the induction week. It's very important to write a brief on something that you are passionate about, and that will give you a head start in choosing the right supervisor. As you can already go through the selection and eventually see a topic or something that might be of interest to you. And if you come with your own, then it's more like a discussion more than you begging or asking someone to give you something. I think that approach has offered me the ability to find the right supervisor for me. So that's for the selection. And then later on, it's very important to go to all the sessions that are being set up for you to prepare, like with the literature review, selection, career, all the things that, I don't know the names, REMI sessions, workshop. All those things are made for you to prepare in the best way and to have a clear idea on how to write those papers that for maybe many, and like me, it was actually totally new. So going to those workshops actually give you relaxed view on how to best write this piece of paper, this piece of which is actually 50% of the year, so quite important.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the questions have stopped coming in.
And we're also 20 minutes over.
We're 20 minutes late. We've done an Armagon, so if you join us in October, you'll learn about doing an Armagon. Okay, so that's it. I will share the slides on our groups and channels, so you can download them, take a look at the links. We'll also send out another email about the sessions next week and confirm the times. And again, if you have a preferred time you'd like these sessions to take place, is this too early for wherever you are in the world, please let us know. Okay, and we can make it an afternoon session or later, whatever suits you guys. So yeah, thank you very much for attending. There is another session at 3:30, so if you've come in halfway or you've missed some of it, we're just doing the same session again. So you don't need to come again if you don't want to, if you've already seen everything. But if you've missed anything, please pop by.
Or there's a as well that you'll share, I assume, Mark.
Yeah, and the recording will be available. So if you go to the link that we sent you, that you clicked on to get to the session, the webinar, you should get a recording in the next hour or two that should be available for you to watch. So yeah, thank you very much for attending. We're going to be monitoring all these groups and channels and groups here. So, you know, if you perhaps think of a question tomorrow or next week, you know, just drop it in the chat and we'll answer it. And of course, you've got our emails as well in the slides.
And also just to repeat that there's the specialism sessions next week. So yeah, feel free to come to those, and there might be specialism specific questions you can ask in those.
Well, last one's coming, Michael, for you. Recommend some data science reading.
Yeah, if we take that offline, if you can email me directly or email Lipping directly, we'll reply back with some links to some things that you can start to look at. Right. I haven't got this is top of my head.
Yeah, that goes across all specialisms. Just contact one of the tutors if you're particularly after any particular reading, and we can point you in the right direction. Cool. If there's no more questions, yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully see you next week in the specialism sessions. Right, bye.
Bye.